Good morning, everyone. Today is Friday, November 26th. Matt had to walk away for a second. He's back. That's awesome. We hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. We are upon rivalry week in college football, probably outside of like the playoff games. It's probably the best weekend of the year, and Big Ten or in championship weekend. One of the best weekends of the year. Matt, how was your Thanksgiving? And how you doing, man?
I had a great Thanksgiving. Doing good. A little tired. I got some of that turkey hangover.
Oh,
But
always.
I missed the Egg Bowl yesterday, but all in all, still had a pretty good day.
Yeah. What's your favorite dish at Thanksgiving? Not turkey, obviously.
That's going to be tough. I'm going to go with, I don't know. I mean, I'm a big mashed potatoes guy. I know it's kind of simple, but I always love mashed potatoes.
Does your family do the macaroni and cheese?
We don't actually.
Okay,
We don't do
good.
mac and cheese.
We don't either. I always get so surprised every year on Thanksgiving. People are like, "Yeah, I was so excited for the mac and cheese." I was like, "No, it's all about mashed potatoes. You gotta get the mashed potatoes, stuffing, gravy." I don't know. I always prepare myself way too much for it. Like I didn't eat on Wednesday pretty much, and then I had that's my regular. I just took a lot of leftovers. It's the best way to do it, and it's how I'll be eating for the rest of the week. So, but yeah, like I said, rivalry week in college football. What do we got? We got Bedlam. The Egg Bowl was last night. We'll cover that quickly. Bedlam, Iron Bowl, the rivalry, Ohio State, Michigan, battle for Paul Bunyan's axe. With all of them going on this weekend, including some today. So there are some games today, and we'll cover those. Which game are you most looking forward to, Matt?
Well, most of the listeners know I'm already a Florida fan. And I'll say, first of all, that I'm not looking forward to that game. Florida FSU may not go our way. I'm actually really excited for Bedlam this year. Oklahoma State. I read it's like the first time they've both been in the top 10 since like the 80s. So I'm really excited for that game.
Yeah, obviously I'm in Ohio State, Michigan country. It's obviously going to be a huge game, probably the biggest since 2016 when they went to double overtime in the de facto college football playoff playing game. We're tuning over versus number 5, but I am also excited for Bedlam the most as well, just because it might be the first time for the rest of my life and the only time that like the under could hit in Bedlam, because Oklahoma State's defense is actually very, very, very good, and you just don't know what you're going to get out of Oklahoma. But yeah, I think that place is going to be ruckus. I'm very excited for that. Always a little like a rivalry that I like that kind of flies under the radar. It obviously has had some big name players over the years, but Oregon State, the Civil War is always pretty good for me. I remember the Rogers brothers, Jaquiz Rogers, and all them. And then obviously just some of the regular games, and we got Penn State, Michigan, things like that as well. And we'll probably do a little segment on, after today, we will know, or not after today. I keep thinking today's Saturday. I thought yesterday was Friday, and I was like, today's Saturday because we had football on last night. So my days are so messed up. But tomorrow, yes, we're all looking forward to tomorrow. All right. Let's start with some trivia. Once again, didn't write it down for you guys because you guys cheat. What is the most played rivalry in Division I football? I'll accept 2 answers.
The most played rivalry. I'm going
to give you a hint.
This is kind of a weird one.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a hint. Mm-hmm. It's nowhere near SEC. It's not SEC.
My first thought was almost like Army Navy.
I'll give you a hint there. It's not that either, but
yeah,
you're in the right. You're thinking the right way, I think.
Okay. Outside of that, it's going to be something in that realm of like Notre Dame, Yale, and I'm not as educated on all of that. So.
No worries. I didn't figure you'd get this one. Well, the most common answer is the battle for Paul Bunyan's axe. It's Wisconsin, Minnesota. This is going to be their 130th meeting. Most in division, most in the FBS, but the all-time rivalry at the it's at I think it's at the FCS level, or it was at some point. But they played 157 times. Lafayette versus Lehigh. So that's a little bit Southern. I had a high school teammate that went and played at Lehigh, and he said the rivalry game's huge down there, but obviously I have no idea about it. But so yeah, I didn't really expect anyone to get that. But yeah, it's weird to think of, you have Auburn, Alabama, who you feel like have been playing each other for hundreds of years because there's so much hate between the two teams that you don't really think about, like, the cheese loving Wisconsin Badgers and Minnesota. So, but yeah. All right. Let's go over some quick headlines. I think I got 3 here. Feel free to bring anything up. So Mel Tucker and James Franklin signed extensions. Mel Tucker signed a 10-year extension at Michigan State for $95 million. I didn't see the number on James Franklin's. I didn't see the years either. I thought it was a 10-year as well. Mm-hmm. I think it's a smart move for Michigan State. I think it's a dumb move for James Franklin. What are your thoughts?
Well, when I looked at the James Franklin one, it became a little more transparent when you look at his contract details. The first 2 years, the buyout is pretty intense. And then after that, there's a pretty big drop off. So I know it's a 10-year extension, but it's really a 2-year extension, just disguising itself as a 10-year, which I think is probably a good move for Penn State right now, considering James Franklin was one of the hottest coaches on the market. And then you go across to Michigan State and you have almost the same thing, except it really looks like Mel Tucker's going to set up camp there.
Yeah.
Which is probably a good move for Michigan State, considering where they've been and what they want to be.
Yeah.
To say he's overpaid. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, unfortunately for Michigan State, the whole gymnastics thing is still kind of lingering around. Like, I feel like Penn State, that whole situation, it's kind of, we're past that. Like, it's been almost 20 years. Or not almost 20 years, almost 15, 10, whatever. But the Michigan State with the doctor, whatever, that's still kind of floating around the programs there. So, yeah, I think it's really smart because I think Michigan State, I think he is a perfect fit for Michigan State. He's very open to clearly the transfer market, which is what coaches need to do these days. I mean, he brought in 22 new starters from transfer schools. So I think it's great for him. I don't think it's smart for James Franklin, and we are going to get into the coaching carousel for a good 10 to 15 minutes here next, and we'll kind of touch more on this, but it's looking like after Mel Tucker signed his deal, the best coach on the market was James Franklin, you would think. And as we go further and further, I mean, we'll just move into the coaching carousel talk. So obviously we have where did I write? I wrote it down, all the jobs that we have open right now. USC, LSU, Florida, TCU, Washington, Virginia Tech, Troy, Washington State, Akron, and Florida International. Any special interest in any of those programs for anything? Obviously Florida, but we'll get to that. That's a big one. We'll get to that.
Florida. I'm keeping an eye on that TCU job also.
Yes, I've go ahead.
Especially as we look towards kind of a new chemical makeup of the Big 12 with Oklahoma and Texas obviously exiting. Outside of that, Virginia Tech catches my eye. Florida International, it's funny, I saw them on this list. You're not going to believe me when I say this. I'm not sure where they are, but I know it's pretty close to where I live. It's not more than about 2 hours out from me, but I couldn't tell you which direction. Wasn't even really aware that they had a football team for what that's worth.
Honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you. The first thing I thought when I saw that, it was Florida Atlantic or whatever, wherever Lane Kiffin coached before. I was like, oh, it's a misprint, Florida Atlantic. But I did look at it. Yeah, no, I gotta ask, like, Florida, the state of Florida, like, where do you get the name Florida International? Like, is it a big internet? I don't know. Whatever.
I'm the wrong person to ask.
Yeah, I know. It's more just a rhetorical question. It's just weird. It's just weird. But back onto the coaching. I have actually a special interest in Akron, obviously, because it's about 45 minutes for me. I follow Kent and Akron. I'll talk about the Kent game later. Akron, outside of UConn, and I don't think Kansas anymore, Akron might be the worst coaching position in all of Division I FBS, other than UConn, I would think. And even UConn just brought back Jim Mora. So that coaching, like 2 years ago, or as of 2 years ago, the Bowden family, Terry Bowden was the head coach there for a while. And he had his brothers, the whole Bowden family helped out there, but they were, I coached high school football around here for a year, and we went to one of their clinics. They had no idea what they were doing. It was a joke. It was terrible. And the program is just not good. And I don't know if I mentioned this last week or if on another podcast, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating it, but back like 10, 15 years ago, they built this brand new stadium, InfoCision Stadium, with the city's money. It is, out of all the small schools and like non-Power 5 schools, it's got to be one of the better stadiums around. It's very, very nice. But it's been basically a complete loss. Akron had to cut their baseball program. They don't have a baseball program anymore. They think football is possibly next. But yeah, the only time that stadium is filled is for the high school games between like the Akron St. Vincent St. Mary's and the a different like the private schools around me. So it's very interesting to me to see who will take that job, just because I think that you're never going to succeed there. I just don't see it. But that just special interest from me. So on that one, so we've seen all of them. I'm going to knock out Florida International, Akron, and Troy. Don't do those ones. How would you rank these jobs?
Outside of those last three, personally, I'm still going to have LSU as the number one job out there. And USC, I'm actually going to put it number 2 ahead of Florida, which is a little tough for me to do. But I think there's just more opportunity there to really kind of become the big dog in the Pac-12. And then that's when I would have Florida come in at number 3, followed by TCU. And then looking at the way these are laid out, I mean, I agree perfectly. It would then go Washington, Virginia Tech, and Wazoo. Maybe I might flip Washington and Virginia Tech, but I don't really have a huge reason to go either way.
Yeah. I think we pretty much agree. I still think Florida's better, but we can get into that in a minute. I think LSU and TCU both offer, and I guess if you're even looking at it, and Washington for as of late, I guess at least, even though they haven't recruited well in Washington, LSU and TCU, like TCU can survive by literally just recruiting out of Texas. Any of those Texas schools are fine because all you have to do is go in that state and you can pretty much find 15, 20 prospects to sign. I mean, so, and then in Louisiana, it's LSU. It's like not even the Saints really, but it's just LSU football. So I was still a Florida second. Just because as of late, what you've seen with USC, I mean, I don't know if you watched the game last weekend. I think they played UCLA, the rivalry game. When you go to USC, you're going to have to win that fan base back from the Rams, from the Warriors, from all that. It's just going to be a tough – well, it won't be tough because it's USC. You would think you'd be able to get the recruits to get back on track. But I think I've said it before. You almost have to be a pseudo-celebrity to be the USC coach, and that's why I thought James Franklin was – up until he signed this extension, and I'll be the first to admit it, they may have signed these extensions. I don't for a second think that they're not at least still open to other offers. That's just how college football works. I mean, it's how Jimbo Fisher does everything. Like, he's going to listen. I do think they're both going to stay there because I think that if USC, I guess USC probably would have the money to buy out James Franklin's contract from Penn State, but it would be a ton of money. So, but yeah, I still like those. I think we're, like I said, consensus in the top 3. And then, like I said, most people would put Washington or even Virginia Tech up against in front of TCU. But like I said, and you kind of explained too, you can simply just recruit out of Texas. It's pretty easy. And then, Washington and Virginia Tech are pretty much interchangeable to me at this point. I do think Washington does have a little bit of an advantage in that Washington high school football is pretty good. Now, they haven't recruited in Washington very well over the last 5 years. I mean, Ohio State's gotten more of their top recruits than Washington has. But there is that opportunity, especially And I mean, those Samoan linemen live out there. Some of those guys just like play football, and so I think if you were able to encapsulate that fan base, you could recruit out of Washington. Mm-hmm. And then so underneath that, it's on the outline. I just put. Feel free to kind of come up with other names. I just put some names on the board that are potential candidates. It's looking like Sonny Dykes is going to take the TCU job, which I think is a smart move for him. But kind of interchanging and going back to my headlines, as that news has been going on, SMU has lost 2 top 300 recruits and 2 other recruits because Sonny Dykes is supposedly leaving. I don't know if they're going to commit to TCU, but so that was one of the headlines I saw. So any of those names, and I think the best way to do this is, we'll just go down LSU, Florida, USC, TCU, and Washington, and just kind of talk about who we think of the best fit would be, and I guess we can make a prediction. I think it's kind of, oh God. Sorry, I just got something. Never mind. I don't know why you said that. But yeah, I think we just go down and look at the candidates and kind of talk about. So I've been talking mostly. So you could take whichever job you want and whichever coaching prospect and take it where you want to go. I would suggest you start with Florida for me because I also apologize. I rarely go on Instagram. I did not see that you sent me the floating tracking device. I will need more of those in the future. So yeah, I never go on Instagram. So I saw the message and I thought it was like spam or something. It was you. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
I'll go ahead and explain what that was. Some of our flight trackers got out there and it's become pretty obvious that Florida is in communication with Billy Napier. We don't know what those conversations have looked like. We just know that they've started. There's something I want to say I heard, but I'm not sure if it was from another coaching search. So I'm not going to go into that. But what I will say is that's really all we know. Florida, from what we know, hasn't had a lot of talk with Lane Kiffin. It has been kind of confirmed by some of his people that if that Florida job were to be extended to him, that he would jump at it, which is great news to hear as a Florida fan. But the flip side of that is there's just a lot of people who don't like Lane Kiffin. And a lot of those people might be boosters for the Florida program. So if there's enough guys in there who just don't like him and don't want him, it's easy to see Florida looking somewhere else. I know you asked me to talk about Florida. I do want to jump on LSU just for 1 second, just to say that I was big on Billy Napier for them until I found out about some of this Florida stuff. My next option for them was I really like Dave Aranda. And it seems out of his camp, they're saying that he's probably going to stay put.
Really?
So I think I'm going Lincoln Riley for LSU because I was reading about Dave Aranda. He had made a comment about how he's looking to stay at Baylor, which as far as college football head coaches go, maybe that sentence doesn't mean a whole lot. But that's the way I've come to understand it. So I would go Lincoln Riley for LSU and then fingers crossed Lane Kiffin, but more likely Billy Napier at Florida.
Okay, so one question. Tom decided to ask a question. He texted me and said he posted a question somewhere, and I couldn't find it, so that's why I was kind of sidetracked. What do we think about Miami? Are they going to fire Manny Diaz? So this was actually a timely question because I've heard, and some people things that I've read say that Lane Kiffin would prefer Miami. I don't know because it seemed like last week at this time, Miami was almost 100% for sure opening up, and now it doesn't seem like it is anymore. So, but back to the coaching overall. No, Tom, no, I don't think they're firing Manny Diaz. Next year, I think would be the first year you really look at it. Miami, they need, the only way they fire him is if they have a Lane Kiffin 100% lined up with recruits, because that Miami team, it's easy to recruit once you get there, but that talent there is just not that good right now. So yeah, I heard Lane Kiffin might go to, would prefer Miami, but I actually agree with you on LSU. It's come to a point where, I'll go back to Dan Mullen in a sec, but it's come to a point where I don't know. Like LSU is going to hire a big name. It's not going to be Franklin, and it's not going to be Tucker. I'll give you $1 million if Luke Fickell leaves Cincinnati. I don't think he's leaving. I think the only job Luke Fickell leaves for are only two jobs. And this is weird that all these like Midwestern coaches have these like the three jobs that they always want. It's Urban Meyer's list too. The only way he's leaving Cincinnati is if Ohio State comes open or Notre Dame comes open, I think. So I don't think he's leaving. And then kind of get to my Billy Napier thing with Florida. So obviously Florida, like, you guys were in the SEC championship game, and it's almost been a meteoric just collapse of Dan Mullen. I don't like ever since the shoe game last year, it's just nothing has gone right. But my question is, I guess, for you, because you're a Florida fan, from what I understand, the fans and the boosters wanted him out because he wasn't recruiting at a high level. That's what I've heard and what I've heard, like the things whatever. So I think that's why Dan Mullen works at a place like Mississippi State. It's because he can recruit his guys. He can get his guys, where I think at Florida, you're expected to, get your guys, but you're expected to also go down to IMG Academy and pick up a couple of those dudes there. So with Florida, so yes, obviously Dan Mullen had a very late collapse and a very bad collapse, but you were in the SEC title game last year. And now going forward, I like Billy Napier. I do. I think he has it all depends on what situation he goes to. I just think it's it has to be a little bit scary as a Florida fan to go from someone like Dan Campbell, who, yes, like I said, meteoric collapse, but you were in the SEC championship game last year. And you're going to Billy Napier, who's been in Louisiana for pretty much his entire career. And he's unproven, so you don't know if it's going to work. So I guess my question is, are you a little bit nervous about that? Do you kind of see where I'm coming from, that like Dan Mullen isn't necessarily like this proven guy? But like I said, you were in the SEC championship game last year. And granted, I don't think Alabama is as good as we thought they were coming into the year. What was it, 5-6 weeks ago? They only lost by 2 points at home. So just your thoughts on that, because I just think going from Dan Mullen to someone like Billy Napier is it's almost like a leap of. It's almost to me like what Florida State did with Mike Norvell. Like they made the jump and it hasn't worked out yet. I do think it might work out for Mike Norvell, but I'll pass back to you on the Florida thing.
Yeah, I would say here was the main issue with Dan Mullen's recruiting was, and granted it was a problem since before he got there. But all of the talent in Florida, specifically more so Central and South Florida, it's all going to Alabama and to Georgia and to Ohio State. And what's funny about it is really to create a national championship team in Florida, you could recruit entirely in state. But these Florida coaches can't do that anymore. Manny Diaz hasn't been able to do that. Nobody can just lock down the state of Florida. Now that trend has been sliding Florida's direction. I think it was either the last recruiting cycle they were talking about, like the Palmetto Five, I think they were called.
I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I think 3 of them had gone to Miami and 2 of them had gone to Florida. So that was definitely a lot better. But until somebody can come in and just lock down, even for the University of Florida being in Gainesville, just Central Florida, a lot of the eyes go to South Florida, that Miami-Dade sort of Broward area. But there's a lot of recruiting to be done in Central Florida around Lakeland, Ocala, places like that. And the first guy to lock that down is, that's going to be something that Dan Mullen wasn't able to do. Will Muschamp, Jim McElwain, anyone else you want to talk about. I don't want to go down the list of Florida's coaches for the last 10 years because we'll be here for an hour. But
Will Muschamp, we shared a head coach, Will Muschamp. I think he was a lot worse for South Carolina. Mm-hmm. Yes, no, Florida is 100% another state where you could just straight up recruit out of Florida. I was pulling up the recruits. I agree with you full-heartedly on Dan Mullen. I think, I don't think you said this, but I think you should have got, like, in a perfect situation, he gets another couple of years to get his guys in. But it's the fact that you have now around you at Florida, Alabama, Georgia, and even Ohio State a little bit now coming and Clemson, for that matter, coming in and taking away your Southern recruits. So it's putting more heat on the coaches. So I don't necessarily agree with it. But we'll see. We'll see. But if I look at the Florida job right now, I guess Billy Napier, I guess I think would be it.
Yeah.
Unless they get Lincoln Riley.
I don't. Yeah. I think Billy Napier, what's interesting about him is how he's been able to even recruit in the state of Louisiana. So pretty stiff competition there, I would imagine. But one of the things I would just say really quickly that kind of padded this image of Dan Mullen for a little bit was he wasn't recruiting great, but then he was going into the transfer portal and picking up these guys who were on paper 5 stars. We can talk about DeMarcus Bowman, who was the running back from Clemson. And then there was Eric Gilbert, who was that tight end from LSU, who now he's playing wide receiver, I think.
Where's he at? He's like transferred.
I want to say, I might sound crazy for this. I want to say he's like at Georgia, but not playing.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm looking it up right now. Keep going.
Yeah, and then for a little bit, he wasn't a transfer, but Zach Evans, that running back who's at TCU now, his insane recruiting, it was a mess. But Dan Mullen's kind of put Florida's name in some of those conversations, and I think it's boosted people's image of that too much. But you look at, say, 5-star DeMarcus Bowman, who's played maybe 3 snaps because the guys that were starting at running back were 2 stars and 3 stars.
Yeah. Eric Gilbert is at Georgia, which is I want to say he committed to LSU, and then I feel like he went somewhere else, and now he's at Georgia. He was all over the place. He's been all over the place, and yeah, I mean it's Tate Martell 2.0. He's probably better than Tate Martell, but who knows? I just think it's the SEC puts pressure on these coaches to recruit when. And by the way, I am looking at the 2022, the top, all the recruits, 247. I use 247 most of the time. I don't know. It's just easier. I got to say, Jimbo Fisher really would. Like, he's digging his own grave if he leaves Texas A&M. I mean, the defensive line class they have come in, they have the number 2 overall prospect, the number 3 overall prospect, the number 8 overall prospect, the number 11 overall prospect. It's just crazy. And then it's just and then you look at the whole board, and then it's just Alabama, Oklahoma, Ohio State, and some Texas here and there, and Georgia, obviously. So, I guess so. If I'm going to make a prediction, I'm 100% in with you. I think LSU shoots. I think they back the Brinks truck up for Lincoln Riley. And I don't think Oklahoma is going to make the playoffs at this pace because I think they will lose in Bedlam. Now, will they lose 2 in a row? I don't know, but I think that knocks them out, the Big 12 out either way. But if Oklahoma loses tomorrow and they're not in the Big 12 championship and they're not in the playoff, I think I think Lincoln Riley makes the move. He's got recruiting ties pretty much everywhere, and then just to be able to come down and get LSU. Louisiana, that'd be huge. Florida, like I said, Billy Napier, I think, unless someone just pops out of nowhere, I don't know. And then USC, I was driving home last night. And I was trying to text you guys. For the life of me, I just don't know who's going to get the USC job. What are your thoughts? Yeah. Like I keep like thinking and running over names in my head, and I guess my best guess, and I haven't heard anything surrounding this, and it almost seems like it's too late for him. Matt Campbell makes sense at USC. The guy from Iowa State, he's a pro-style coach. He was a big name about 2 years ago. I know that when Urban Meyer left Ohio State, Matt Campbell was one of the names too. So maybe him, but I feel like he's overstayed his welcome in Iowa State, so he's just going to be there forever. Other than that, I have no idea. You can go ahead with your thoughts. I'm going to look in what some of the odds are for these coaches.
Yeah, I'm looking at this list you've got written out of just all the people who could be available for some of these coaching jobs. Nobody really jumps out to me as USC, Brett. I mean, and here's the thing, I almost feel ridiculous talking about Urban Meyer making the jump back to college. It's a conversation I've gotten away from a long time, but I do remember a quote from him a couple years back where he said if he were to come back to college football, it would be for one of them was Notre Dame, which you brought up earlier, and then I think it was like USC and Texas, which was a little strange because last year was when Urban was going to go back to coaching and the Texas job was open. He didn't take it. I wonder if he's almost too tarnished now for USC.
Yeah, no, I don't. Well, he wouldn't. The thing is, he wouldn't be tarnished in college football. I mean, he say everything bad you want to say about Urban Meyer. Even maybe some people don't think he's a very good coach. He is probably one of the best, if not the best, other than Nick Saban, the best recruiter in the last decade and a half, 2 decades. So, what it is, I just don't.
Sorry about that. I crashed for a second. And
No, that was me. That was me. That was all me. I'm trying to get my other thing. Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. Yeah, my bad. That was me. So I can cut that out. No worries. What was I saying? What was I talking about? Coaching. So I just looked at LSU's, and I'm taking back my USC thought as well. I think Jay Veranda might end up at USC. Mm-hmm. I personally, I think Dave Aranda is. Yeah, I think he's the best coach out there. Dave Aranda would be my number one choice overall, I guess. But yeah, I still have no idea. I think you were mentioning some of the names. I guess Mario Cristobal wouldn't shock me if he went to USC, but at the same time, it kind of would. It doesn't. It's a move to a bigger school, but then again, if you're at Oregon, you have Nike in your backyard, so you're pretty set there. I don't know. We both did LSU. This will be an ongoing conversation for every week probably until all the coaching positions are filled. So we'll keep it fluent and keep it seeing how it's going. But yeah, I think we're both pretty locked in on LSU and Florida. Maybe like we have some couple, but USC is just it's a really weird one. And I didn't put him on the list. It would be a very risky move for USC. Deion Sanders I wouldn't be shocked.
I almost said that, and I thought you'd make fun of me.
No, I would not be shocked. I think it would be a horrible move. I don't think that Deion Sanders. Well, I know Deion Sanders can't coach, but what he can do is recruit. So if you think about it, if he got him out to Southern California, got a good coaching staff around him, he'd get all the California guys. So I guess that's not a terrible idea. You just gotta know that. You just got to know that he's got to get recruiting. Another name we're forgetting about, Mark Stoops at Kentucky, is on a lot of these lists that I didn't put in there. You think he's leaving Kentucky?
I don't think so. I've heard a lot of talk about it. A couple of people even floated him for the Florida position. I saw this ridiculous graphic the other day. It was like the Vegas odds of all the coaches to go to Florida. And they had him as number one. And I went to the comments and everyone was like, why? Like, We've got the flight tracking numbers of Florida in Louisiana talking to Billy Napier. Nothing has come out about Stoops. He's shown no interest. So I think that's just all talk. I don't see him moving anywhere.
Yeah, for me, it's more of I just don't know where he would go. Like, I don't know where is necessarily an upgrade from Kentucky because Kentucky is SEC football. So I don't feel like going to TCU or anything like that. So yeah, I don't know. All right, let's get into the meat of everything. We're just gonna do quick our top fours, or top sixes, whatever, for the college football playoff rankings. New rankings came out. I think everyone kind of predicted this. Maybe Ohio State and Alabama mixed up. Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, Alabama 3, 4 Cincinnati, 5 Michigan, 6 Notre Dame. So I ask you this question: look at all those teams on that 16 list, or anyone in the top 10, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Who has the best win of the season so far?
Who has the best win? That's actually a great question. I'm leaning a little bit to say Ohio State's win over Michigan State last week. Not just because of obviously the win, but the fashion in which it happened. Outside of that, it doesn't really look like anybody has a huge win, because we can talk about, like, maybe a team who gets over Iowa or Penn State, but those teams aren't what they were in the beginning of the season. So for me, it's going to be Ohio State and their win over Michigan State. But I'm sure you're going to say something. I'm going to go, oh my gosh, I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, you are. And I think a lot of people are forgetting about it. The best win so far, there's only one team in the top 6 that has beaten another top 6 team. Cincinnati beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame. So to me, I think that's the best win. I agree with you. I will say, though, I think maybe not you, and maybe not necessarily people from like the South who don't really follow Michigan State football, but like us up here, we kind of put too much stock into them too early. Kenneth Walker's great, but that team just really wasn't that good. But it was a primetime game. So, I mean, that it's definitely not a bad win. I feel like a lot of people are thinking about or forgetting about Cincinnati's win at Notre Dame. And I guess to move on from that, the question I ask you is, because I pray this wouldn't happen, but I know how the committee works. Is there a world where Notre Dame and Cincinnati both win out, but Notre Dame jumps Cincinnati?
I don't think so. I think there's been so much pressure on the G5 inclusion in the playoffs. I think it makes a lot of sense to do it this year with the way things have gone. I don't see Notre Dame jumping Cincinnati.
I agree.
If they both win out.
I agree. But it would be an ultimate, just screw you to.
I'd love to see the memes after.
Yeah. Oh, of course. They'd just be flying for days. So my top 4, I had it Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, Cincinnati, Notre Dame, Michigan. And then you had yours. I think you had Georgia, Ohio State, Cincinnati, Alabama, Michigan, Notre Dame, correct?
Let me double check on that. Read that off one more time to me. I'm sorry.
Georgia, Ohio State, Cincinnati, Alabama, Michigan, Notre Dame.
I've got number 6 is Oklahoma State. Notre Dame's my number 7.
Okay. All right, cool. So I don't know where I was going with this, but whatever. So what we've been doing, obviously, we're going to do our 12-team playoff, and I found brackets online that we could fill in. So I'm going to pull them up. These are obviously, we'll just go over the rules again. Hopefully next week you guys might have caught up to. Pay attention. I believe all Power 5 champions, 2 non-Power 5 and 5 at large. So I'll just read mine off, then I'll pull up my bracket. Number 1, I have the SEC winner, Georgia. Number 2, I have the Big Ten winner, Ohio State, second. Number 3, at large, Alabama. Number 4, non-Power 5, Cincinnati. Number 5, non-Power 5, Notre Dame. Number 6, at large, Michigan. Number 7, Big 12 champion, Oklahoma State. At large, number 8, at large, Ole Miss. Number 9, ACC champion, Pitt. Number 10, Pac-12 champion, Oregon. 11, at large, Oklahoma. And then 12, at large, BYU. And my first 3 out, Michigan State, first team out, Texas A&M, second team out, and UTSA, third team out. Let's do yours first, and then I'll pull up both brackets. So why don't you name off your top 12, and then I'll pull up both brackets.
Sounds good. Yeah. So number one, I've got Georgia as the SEC champion. Number two, I've got Ohio State as the Big Ten champion. People like to call me an Alabama homer, but I've actually got Cincinnati at number 3 as my non-power 5 and Alabama at number 4 as my at-large. So whatever that's worth, I've got a G5 over Alabama. Number 5, I've got Michigan at large. Number 6 is Oklahoma State as the Big 12 champions. Number 7, I've got Notre Dame as a non-P5. Number 8, I've got Ole Miss at large. Number 9 is Baylor at large. Number 10 is Oklahoma at large. Number 11 is Pitt from the ACC. And then number 12 is going to be Oregon as the Pac-12 champion.
So that is how I think am I scrolling up and down on the screen?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, good. So that is how it would play out. Obviously, the first 4 would have a bye. Then you got Georgia, and then you got 5. Georgia would play the winner of Michigan and Oregon, and then Alabama would play the winner of Ole Miss and Baylor, and then Cincinnati would play the winner of Notre Dame and Oklahoma, and then Ohio State would face the winner of Oklahoma State and Pitt. All right. Like I said, ours are pretty similar, but I will pull mine up now. Share screen. Ours are pretty much alike, but there we go. All right. I filled mine out all the way. I think we'll start doing this for all 3 of ours next week. I just wanted to fill it out just for whatever. Number 1, like I said, Georgia up here on the upper left. Georgia champions the SEC, playing Ole Miss at large, and Pitt and ACC. I have Pitt winning that one, and then falling to Georgia. So Georgia would be in the Final Four. And then down here, I have Cincinnati as the 4 seed. They would play the winner of Notre Dame and BYU. I think Notre Dame would win that, and then I think Notre Dame would win the rematch over Cincinnati, and Notre Dame would be in the Final Four. Then down here at number 3, Alabama would play the winner of Michigan and Oklahoma. That's just a tough matchup for Michigan. I like Oklahoma, and then Alabama would down Oklahoma. And then Ohio State would play the winner of Oklahoma State and Oregon. They would advance to the Final Four, and then it would be Georgia versus Notre Dame and Ohio State versus Alabama. And then my national championship would be Ohio State versus Georgia. So that is what I got. So we'll be doing this every week, kind of doing our 12-team brackets. I'll probably start next week sending out a poll, or I'll show you how to set up a poll to do it on Spotify or on the Anchor, whatever, my bad. But I just think it's interesting. I had to get some justice for UTSA. Got to have them in there, the only other undefeated team. But I really don't think the top 12 would differ that much this week. I think the seedings would just be different for the most part. All right. Well, let's go to our players to watch this weekend. I'm trying to make sure I didn't miss anything. I feel like I did, but I didn't. All right, I didn't. Good. So let's go to our players to watch. Do you have them, Matthew?
I do. So I've got 2. The first one is a little more just a side effect of my own pride, but I think we need to be watching Will Anderson in the Iron Bowl against a pretty badly hurting Auburn offense right now. TJ Finley's going to be starting. That's not going to be great. This is a really good opportunity for him to get a little more of that national spotlight and boost maybe a potential Heisman race. But outside of him, as far as game impact, I actually want to talk BJ Baylor.
Okay.
Hold on. Let me make sure I got his name right, actually. I always be doing this. It's either Kenneth Gainwell or – okay, great.
It's not Kenneth Gainwell. Kenneth Gainwell's in the NFL.
Well, I know. I was joking about how I'm always mixing the names. But
I got you.
So BJ Baylor, listen, last year I loved watching Oregon State beat Oregon. And I'm going to call it again for this year, but I think it starts with BJ Baylor. I was looking earlier today. He's got nearly 5 yards a carry over the entire year. Games where they've won every game where he's had more than like 17 carries, I think was the number. So I'm really interested to see how that goes. But he could definitely be a pressure point in that game. So I'm watching BJ Baylor this week.
Okay, cool. I got 4, but 3 or 2 really. Jalen Warren, Oklahoma State running back. He's having a really good season this year, already over 1,000 yards. Oklahoma State is going to try to go on. I don't know best how to explain this other than it's what the Browns do in the NFL. They're going to try and go on long, methodical drives to keep Oklahoma's offense off the field. And I think that is going to go into play. Their front line, their front 7 or front 5 are very big and very good and very nasty. So I think the onus is going to be on Jalen Warren. I think if Jalen Warren gets over 100 yards, I think Oklahoma State definitely wins. But I skipped over something, by the way, but it's also going to be a nice segue to something. My other 3 players to watch are all of Ohio State's the trio of wide receivers, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, and Jackson Smith-Njigba. Smith-Njigba already has over 1,000 yards on the year. Olave and Wilson are obviously going to catch him. They would be only the 6th program ever to have 3 1,000-yard receivers in the same season. I know we thought, and I know we talked about this last year, I think at some point this year, that Alabama's wide receivers last year were incredible, and they were. I think the 3 that Ohio State have this year are insane. And the only thing that's crazy is that the guys behind Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson are also insanely good. Like Julian Fleming was the 2018-2019 number 1 overall recruit as wide receiver. Got his first touchdown last weekend. So it's those guys because they all got snubbed for the Biletnikoff. None of them are finalists for the Biletnikoff, which I understand it because it's more of a team thing, but not to have one of those guys, like at least let Olave win it because Personally, I do think the best receiver, I don't know who it is. I think it's on Ohio State's roster. That's just me, though. But what I did skip over and what we did skip over, and good thing, you can tell me if you have to leave at any time, by the way. We have a little bit of time, though. So the awards finalists were announced earlier this week. Did you see that?
I am actually just now Googling it. I don't know how. I entirely missed this.
I was dumb because I knew that they got snubbed for the Biletnikoff, so they must have came out, but I didn't realize this till last night, and I didn't write it down, so I obviously didn't remember it. Now I am remembering it. I have them pulled up. I have the award finalists pulled up, the award and the finalists, and then I'll read them off, and how about we just go over if anyone got snubbed and maybe pick a winner. Cool?
Yeah.
All right. So pretty simple. The Czech Bednarik Award, the College Defensive Player of the Year. Finalists Will Anderson, Alabama, Jordan Davis, Georgia, Kyle Hamilton, Notre Dame, Kayvon Thibodeau, Oregon. Who do you like out of that group? Or did anyone get snubbed either?
I don't think so. I mean, this is exactly how I would have drawn this up, not only right now, but probably in the preseason as well. Just a couple of, consistent performers, in my opinion. I'm going to lean a little bit Will Anderson on this. I know I've talked about it already. But I think realistically, this is probably Jordan Davis. I don't really see Kyle Hamilton having that kind of year this year. I know he's going to go high in the draft. There just hasn't really been a ton of noise there. So if I had to narrow it down to 3, I'd probably nix Kyle Hamilton and say it'd be Thibodeau, Davis, or Anderson.
Who's going to win?
I'd like for it to be Anderson. I'm probably going to call it Davis, though.
Okay, just so you know, these are the finalists, so they're the final ones. Like it's one of these guys is going to win it. So it's just if you have a snub or the winner. I think Will Anderson is going to win it. I think Jordan Davis should win it. Kayvon Thibodeau and Kyle Hamilton, I kind of agree with you. For me, they're going to go high in the draft, very high. Both of them are. They didn't have anywhere near the importance or just they didn't have the season statistic even close to the season statistically that Jordan Davis had, and obviously Will Anderson. I think Will Anderson has the pretty numbers, the tackles for loss, the sacks. That's what gets you the awards. I'm up front. That's how Chase Young wins it. That's how Joey Bosa won it. But I think Jordan Davis is probably outside of maybe I can't think, maybe Bryce Young at Alabama. Jordan Davis has to be probably one of the most important players on their team in the country. Him in the middle, that 5-tech, him controlling where the defense is a lot, or the offense runs the ball. It's a huge factor. I think if they took it all over and didn't really look at stats, I think they would go to Jordan Davis, but I do think Will Anderson will win. And especially because he's just been already garnering some Heisman love. Okay, the Biletnikoff, the finalists, David Bell, Purdue, Jordan Addison, Pittsburgh, and Jamison Williams, Alabama. I'll start with this one. Once again, the Ohio State receivers got snubbed. I also think Drake London at USC got snubbed. Jahan Dotson, but then again, he didn't get snubbed because Penn State's been really bad. But and then if these are the finalists, I mean, once again, I don't think any of these three should win it. But I will go with David Bell. And do you know the funniest thing about that three finalists is that none of the Ohio State receivers got mentioned for a Biletnikoff or a finalist, but last year's Ohio State receiver did, Jamison Williams at Alabama. So, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, just like you, I was a little surprised to not see Drake London here. Let me hold on.
There were games this year where Drake London, like the game plan on offense for USC was to like somehow get the ball into the opposing team's territory and then just throw it to Drake London every single play. Mm-hmm. He's a beast.
Well, and it's been pretty similar too with Penn State and Jahan Dotson. I was surprised not to see him because kind of similarly to Jamison Williams, he's really kind of the core of the passing game in that offense, even maybe more so than the quarterbacks that they have, because there are so few options out there. Yeah. So I was surprised not to see Jahan Dotson as well. But out of these three, I would say Jamison Williams is probably who I would pick for the winner.
I would take where is it? I would take David Bell. He's been under the radar, but had a great season. He's had like 4 great seasons. He's very good, but it wouldn't surprise me if Williams wins. Is it Williamson or Williams? I thought it was Williams.
Just Williams, yeah.
Yeah, I thought. Okay. Well, I guess this tells you how college football has gone this year. The place kicker award, the Grozo Award, Gabe Burkich. I think this is his like 4th or 5th straight year being a finalist for Oklahoma. He's the guy that came after Dicker, the kicker. And then Jake Moody at Michigan and Noah Ruggles at Ohio State. If Gabe Burkich doesn't win, I don't know who wins. He was a finalist last year, so I feel like they're going to give it to him. I don't know. Kicker has been bad this year. Ohio State hasn't missed one. I don't know what Michigan has. It's a toss-up for me. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I've got actually a pretty hefty list of snubs here now.
Okay, yes. This is all I'm here for. Let's go.
But no, I mean, I agree with everything you said. Unfortunately, I don't have much to add. But I do feel like we had a much better crop of kickers last year than we do this year.
Kickers, it seems like they have a really good season, and then the next season they just have a bad one. So I have no idea who's going to win, but I said Burkich, whatever. The punter of the year, to me, this is the easiest award to give out. I'm not even going to name the other 2 finalists. Matt Araiza from San Diego State should win. I think his average punt is like 65 yards. It's insane. He's going to be
I did see that on Instagram. Yeah.
No, honestly, go look at this dude's punts. He's actually going to be like a weapon in the NFL. He's crazy. But I don't even know who the other guys are. And usually, it tells you all you need to know when. Obviously, Penn State didn't have a good season because their punter was out there a lot, and then Rutgers punter as well. Mm-hmm. But whatever. All right. Now into some of the bigger. I'm probably going to skip through some of these, but yeah. Well, we only have 1, 2, 3, 5 more. So
I mean, we already hit the Ray guy, so
yeah. We only got 5 more. I thought there were more than that. So the Maxwell, obviously Player of the Year. I think this usually goes to our the runner up from the Heisman either gets the Davy O'Brien because it's usually a quarterback, or the Maxwell. Finalists this year: Kenny Pickett, CJ. Nope, that's not it. Kenny Pickett, Kenneth Walker, third Michigan State, Bryce Young, Alabama. I think Kenneth Walker gets this one.
Mm.
I think they're going to try and give it to a running back. And we'll get to that. We'll get to the Heisman in a sec, but I think Bryce Young is going to be more in play for the Heisman than anything else. So I think they give it to Walker, the running back. We haven't had a really good running back in a long time. So, and obviously he didn't show out last weekend against Ohio State, but I don't know how much of the game you watched. It was very weird how Mel Tucker used him. He used him for 2 carries in the first quarter, and then he didn't see the field the rest of the first quarter. It was very weird. But he's had a great season, so I gotta reward him. All right, Davy O'Brien, national quarterback. This one's pretty easy for me as well. Kenny Pickett, C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young. Like I said, I think it's C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young for the Heisman. I think Kenny Pickett picks up the Davy O'Brien. What about you?
Yeah. No, I'm right with you there. I've got Kenny Pickett for the Davy O'Brien.
So the Outland Trophy, the most outstanding interior lineman. There's some dude from NC State. I don't know how to say his name. Ikem Ekwonu. But it doesn't matter because he's third by a large margin. This might be the closest Outland Trophy voting there ever has been, because Tyler Linderbaum is a legit top 10 pick, and Jordan Davis is incredible as well. But like I said, I think if Davis gets the Bednarik Award, then I think Linderbaum gets this. If he doesn't get the Bednarik, I think he gets this then.
Yeah, I agree with you there. It's a little political when you get into some of this stuff, as far as how they dole it out and which teams are doing well. But I'm with you there too.
All right,
I wish I had an original thought to add. I basically just named 2 Alabama guys that I liked and then just took your side for the rest of them.
All right, the Thorpe Award. Kobe Bryant, Cincinnati. That is not Sauce Gardner. It's the other guy. Verone McKinley III at Oregon and Jalen Petrie at Baylor. I don't know any of these 3 guys at all. I can't believe there's nobody from Alabama or Georgia on this list. I'll say Kobe Bryant because his name is Kobe Bryant. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you there. Preseason, I would have expected to see Kyer Lamb here.
Yeah, the fact that when I look at the Thorpe Award, it's usually the 3 finalists are all SEC players, or there's one good corner from Ohio State that's in there, and it's then 2 other SEC players. So it's really shocking that. Yeah, it's shocking. Like I said, I'll give it to Kobe Bryant. I do think I don't know why I can't think of his name right now. He's fallen off at the end of the year. Iowa's safety, who had 2 pick sixes earlier, probably should be a finalist, but he's fallen off at the end. So whatever. And then I'm not going to go through the rest of these. These are the Good Works Award, and we'll get to that way at some point. And then we once we get the winners of the Remington, the John Mackey, and the Assistant of the Year and everything, then we'll go over that stuff. But it is rivalry week, so we do need to get into the games for this week. Obviously, there are some games today. We had the Egg Bowl last night. We kind of talked about it. It was a slow death for Mississippi State. It kind of sucked. Rainy. I thought it was going to be a lot more exciting. It wasn't. It happens. But we're going to go through the games today first. So on here in about an hour and a half on the Big Ten Network, I went at Nebraska. Nebraska favored by 1. Over under is 41. Matthew, this is one of your picks.
It is. I'm actually pretty hot on Nebraska in this game. Nebraska's just had such a weird season, and I've loved it. So I'm going to take this opportunity to get behind Nebraska, and at -1, I feel pretty good about it.
I hear what you're saying, and I agree. Nebraska's had a funny season. It's been a weird season. So the only way this last game goes for them is they're going to lose in some wacky random way. So I will go against you and take Iowa plus the points. I was having a conversation with my buddy like maybe a week ago. But like there's a difference between like good bad teams and really really bad teams. Like Nebraska's a good team with a bad record. I mean, they were a drive away from beating Ohio State, Michigan, and Michigan State, Oklahoma. So yeah, I like Nebraska, but I just think it ends the other way.
And what I will say, just so people know, I'm not just picking it because it's fun. I do understand the concept that what Iowa does best is where Nebraska is the worst. And so I do see probably some Nebraska turnovers in this game. And I think Nebraska probably loses the turnover battle, but I mean, I'm not sure I can be convinced that Spencer Petras is going to walk in and just win this game.
And Scott Frost just needs this win so bad, man. I know he's re-signed it, like he's staying through next year at least, but at some point I just start feeling bad for the guy. So yeah. All right. And then maybe the most important game of the day, Cincinnati versus ECU. Where is it? I had the spread up. Why? 3:30 p.m. ABC today. Cincinnati's favored by 14. The over/under is 57. Matthew, I'll start with you again. What do you like in this one?
I'm not turning any heads by saying I like Cincinnati. So I will go ahead and I'm going to take the under on this one. It's at 57. Vegas obviously knows something. I know last week we had this ridiculous showing where Desmond Ridder had like a passing touchdown, a receiving touchdown, a rushing touchdown, and all this garbage. I shouldn't call it garbage because it was very impressive. But I don't see it going over 57. I don't know how much I trust ECU even to put that many points on the board.
I'm actually agreeing with you. I think Cincinnati, like this is a kind of a trap spot for them. But I think they win. I think they cover the 14. I agree with you. The under is also the play, but the real play, one of my picks, Cincinnati team total over 35.5. The spread is 14. Cincinnati is going to score. They're going to have to score. ECU's defense is not that great, so I love Cincinnati scoring anywhere from 42 to 45 points today. But it should be a good one. Hopefully, well, actually, it could be a really bad one too as well. So who knows? All right, on to let's get into our standings. It is really a barn burner down here at the end. Bowl season is going to be interesting. We're all separated by a game. I'm in first with a record of 23, 21, and 1. Matty S, 22, 22, and 1, perfect 500. And then Matt Jakubosky, who's not here today, 22 and 23. I will say my goal for all of us is to have us at least 500 by the end of the year. But this is coming down to the end, and it's getting interesting. We've talked a little bit more throughout the days. Last week, I didn't talk to anyone because I was just mad about everything. Didn't hit anything for the most part. I just ignored you guys. But yes, so it's coming down to it. So every pick matters. But obviously, we'll give our cards in a sec. But let's go over some of the other games. Then we'll get into the big three. Wisconsin, Minnesota, 4 p.m. on Fox. Wisconsin's favored by 7. Over/under is 39. Matthew, what do you like in this one?
It's weird to see a total at 39 in the first place. Wisconsin, this defense is pretty legit, and I am behind Wisconsin. I am going to take them to win this game, and I'm going to take them to cover. Minnesota was maybe a little bit impressive in like week 0, but there really just hasn't been anything incredible coming out of there. Granted, the same could be said about Wisconsin, and I understand where that's coming from. But Wisconsin just has a couple spots on their team where they're really good. And if they can just hone in on those 2 or 3 things that they do well, then I think they can run away with this one.
Yeah. Good news for Minnesota fans. This was part of my headlines earlier. Ibrahim Campbell, the running back who tore his Achilles in the first game versus Ohio State, he's returning to school next year, so they will have him back next year. A nice boost for PJ Fleck and them. My play here is I'm going with the under. I think Wisconsin probably dominates this game, and by dominates I win like 20-6. So it's going to be a very boring game. I'm probably not going to watch it. I'm probably at 7:00. I'm just going to look and see what the final score is and see if I hit the under. But I am playing the under at 39. It's so low, but it seems low for a reason. Inclement weather is everywhere, especially up north where we got some snow flurries on the ground. So, I like the under there. I just don't think there's going to be a lot of scoring. Wisconsin's not going to put up more than 24 points, and I'm almost positive they're going to win. So, yeah. All right. Next one, Clemson at South Carolina. Not really a huge rivalry for most. I was there for a year for it, so it is kind of big. 7:30 p.m. on the SEC Network. Clemson's favored by 11.5, and the over-under is 43. I could be a homer here and take South Carolina. I'm not. I'm not, but I would probably go with the over of 43. I do think South Carolina stays in the number of 12, but I'm not confident enough on it. I would go with the over of 43. I think I said it was. Yeah, 43. I would go over just because Clemson's offense maybe seemed to figure it out last week against Wake Forest. And that defense, we've talked about all year long, that defense is still elite. They still have elite players. So over 43.
Yeah. For me, this game almost has the exact strategy that UFFSU is about to have. It's just somewhere where I really just have no idea how to feel. I could do some weird like transitive property stuff and explain how South Carolina wins because they were able to score X amount of points against Georgia and all that. But I'm just going to take Clemson. I don't know that I take them to cover. 11.5 seems a little steep.
Yeah.
So you know what? I want to take the under on this one. So I'm going to take it under 43.
I may switch mine to the under as well, but it's not one of my picks. But yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think I'm on the under. Like I said, that defense is still really, really good, and South Carolina is just not really good. I would take the under now that you say it. All right. Battle in the Big Ten, Penn State, Michigan State. This is either going to be a ton of fun and just like a randomly high-scoring affair, or it's going to be brutal and hard to watch because both these teams are pretty much out of it. They're not playing for much other than pride. Michigan State got absolutely destroyed last week. I think Penn State wins it. I think they win by 1 point. I don't think they cover. I would also take the under 52 in this. I just don't think – I think Kenneth Walker has over 100 yards, but I just don't think Michigan State has. I mean, after losing like that last week, I just don't know how you have any gas left to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say well, first of all, Michigan State has to fix a couple things in their secondary. Luckily for them, and I touched on this.
A couple of things. They're called 4 things: the 2 cornerbacks and the 2 safeties. They need to change all of them.
Well, what I will say, and this is good news for Michigan State, I talked about this earlier when we were talking about the Blitnikoff, which is Penn State doesn't really have another downfield option outside of Javon Dotson. So is it Javon or Jahan? I feel like I got that wrong.
Jahan, Jahan.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, I had a feeling I got that wrong. So, I mean, if that gets shut down, I don't know how much else Penn State can do in this game. It's really tough to get a feel for this one. You know, normally I look to see what Vegas is doing because they always know more than I do. And they've got this at 1.5 points. So I don't know what to do besides bet on the total, and I'm going to take the under.
I would take, yeah. I also wouldn't touch this one, and yeah, I would take the under if I did. Oregon State at Oregon, 3:30 on ESPN. Oregon -7 over under 60.5. I'll start. I'm taking the under here. I don't trust either one of these two teams to win. I definitely don't trust Oregon to win by 7, even at home. They're out of the playoffs. That loss to Utah was another just brutal beatdown last weekend that we saw. I'm taking the under 16.5. That Oregon's whole offense changed, and obviously this is kind of obvious, but it changed when they lost CJ Verdell. They are not very good, and I think it's good for college football that they're not going to make the playoff.
Well, I'm going to say I've got Oregon State plus the points in this one, and I've got Oregon State to win outright. I touched on it earlier when I was talking about BJ Baylor. I think Oregon State can just apply at a couple different pressure points here, and I think they can stun Oregon for the second year in a row.
It would be a second year in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Look at you coming with stats. All right. And then once again, this is only this is big in the MAC world and kind of big for my parents. They went to Kent. So Miami of Ohio at Kent, Saturday at noon on ESPN Plus. Miami's favored by 1 over under 65.5. Winner of this game represents the MAC East in the MAC championship. So it is a pretty important game. I'm going to take Kent State +1. I believe I'm probably going to take that tomorrow as well. And I don't think it's one of my picks, but I will actually be taking it. I would love to take the over, but the weather makes me think it's not going to go over. But Kent's awesome. If you haven't seen them run their offense, it's old school Oregon. They run a play every 17 seconds. The only team that runs them faster at one point in the season was Tennessee. They're an exciting team. They have a quarterback who is from around me. Probably will get a shot with an NFL team, be it a practice squad or anything. But I do like Kent State to win and go back to the MAC championship for the second year in a row after having the program was as bad as Akron was about 10 years ago. So they brought in this guy named Sean Lewis. He was under Dino Babers. He's been very, very good. But yeah, I probably like Kent. And if you have no idea, you can just say you don't know.
Yeah, I'll say this much. I don't have ESPN Plus. I won't be watching this game.
Just text me. I have it. Right. You can sign into my account. I'd let everyone sign into my account. All right. Now to the big three, or at least the big three in my opinion. Alabama and Auburn. I just want to say first, this sucks that Bo Nix is hurt. Bo Nix isn't very good, but it sucks that Bo Nix was hurt because I don't think Alabama is as good as we all think they are. And I think that Auburn could have beat them with Bo Nix, and Brian Harsin could have got a huge victory. I don't think I'm touching this game in any of my picks, but I would go with the under 57 and then the over, or take the over team total in Alabama. I don't think Auburn's going to score a ton. I just don't.
Yeah, I think, first of all, 20.5 is pretty steep. And the only reason I really can get behind that is because I know TJ Finley's going to be playing. And I'm going to repeat the sentiment that you just gave us. Even though Bo Nix isn't great, this is a much better game if he plays in it.
Yeah.
So I'm really disappointed that we're not going to get that. But seeing we're going to have TJ Finley, I would take Bama minus 20.5. The total, I'm not really sure how to feel about it. The Bama defense has been really feast or famine kind of.
Yeah.
So I have a weird feel on this one, but just knowing that we're not going to see Bo Nix, and especially, I mean, Tank Bigsby is one of my favorite backs in the SEC. But how much is he going to be able to do against what Alabama puts on their line, So I got Bama to cover.
I would probably take Bama to cover. I would take the under here. I don't think Auburn, again, I don't think they're going to have much success doing it, but I think the only way they stay in this game is if they make it a slow, grinded out game. And to me, that screams the under. I don't really know. I think Alabama wins and wins pretty easily. I think two of these Big Three conference games actually might be blowouts. But moving on to Bedlam. Oklahoma at Oklahoma State, 7:30 ABC. Oklahoma State, everyone has a different number for it. It's either 4 or 4.5 at every book I've seen. So whatever number you want. I think I got it at 4. So that's what I'm going with. I'm taking Oklahoma State -4. Oklahoma's in shambles. We've talked about it. The rumors are circulating around Lincoln Riley possibly leaving. Well, I mean, 2 weeks ago, they almost lost to – no, I'm not talking about Oklahoma. Yeah, I am talking about Oklahoma. They almost lost to Kansas. Caleb Williams is good. I still think he needs to finish out this year, and then he'll come into next year probably as one of the Heisman favorites, but he's still a freshman. And Oklahoma State's defense it's very, very good. And unlike in past years, Oklahoma just doesn't have those guys that on the outside that really freak you out. So I like Oklahoma State -4. I like the under as well. And then I'll have to look at the Oklahoma State team total, but possibly that as well.
Yeah. For me in this matchup, I'm looking at Oklahoma State and I'm looking at their defense. I heard something the other day where they were talking about the Oklahoma State defense is allowing like 58% of opponents like rushing totals, which is near identical to what Georgia is allowing. So I'm not coming out here and saying that they're the next Georgia or they're as good as Georgia. But that's worth talking about, that they're allowing 58% of opponent rushing totals, especially considering that a lot of what Caleb Williams brings to the table is his ability to rush. We saw a lot more sort of patience and, even though there were some interceptions and some bad bits to it, Spencer Rattler was a lot more likely to throw the ball than Caleb Williams was. So for that reason, I almost think Spencer Rattler probably has a better chance of winning this game. But I imagine they're starting Caleb Williams, and I don't see this going well for Oklahoma. It's going to be one of the better defenses they've played against. They're kind of at a tough question mark of a spot. And with everything happening with Lincoln Riley, like you were talking about, I see this as just not going their way. So I would take Oklahoma State to cover 4.5. I'd take them to cover if it was 8.5. So.
Yeah, I think I don't know about 8.5. I'd take it a touchdown. What was I going to say? I had something important to say. I can't remember. Oh, I was just thinking about this rambling. Ohio State and Oklahoma should trade quarterbacks next year. CJ Stroud can go to Oklahoma, and we'll take Caleb Williams, because for whatever it is, it makes me so angry that CJ Stroud refuses to run when he has like 10 yards in front of his face. It blows my mind. It makes me so mad. And that's why I don't think that he's as good as people think he is, because he has no running capability and he's throwing to the best receivers, but whatever. We'll get into the Heisman here in a sec. Yeah, I think Oklahoma State wins. I think if there was a coach out there that like I'm cheering for to get into the playoff, it's probably Mike Gundy. I'd love to see him get in. He's been there forever. He's a man. He's 40. So, yeah, I think we're pretty much agreeing on that. And then finally, the top 5 matchup, number 2, Ohio State at Michigan in Ann Arbor, noon on Fox. Ohio State -7.5. Over under is 64.5. This has all the makings of what could be a close game. It could be a close game. But it also has all the makings of the fact that Michigan does have 2 guys on the outside that can affect CJ Stroud and get to CJ Stroud, especially Agent Hutchinson. I just think Michigan is in a class with the rest of the Big Ten teams, like Michigan State and Penn State. They're all kind of – Michigan's probably the best out of that group. I think Ohio State's on another level. I'm just going to be easy here. Take the over of Ohio State point total, and take Ohio State with the points. I have them at 7.5. I think they win by 2-3 touchdowns, maybe. Since 2015, since Harbaugh took over, they have not beat Michigan, or they have not beat Ohio State, and they've lost by an average score of 44.2 to 25.2. It's a 19-point spread. So this is only 7. I like the number with 7. It's my lock of the week. Ohio State -7.5.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I've got Ohio State to cover as well. I feel really good about that pick, especially looking at what happened last week with Michigan State. And I do agree with you that out of kind of, if you shave off Ohio State, Michigan probably is the best team in the Big Ten right now, which good for Michigan. Happy for them, you know. Uh, but it's not going to cut it against Ohio State, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I don't think they fire Harbaugh, but it's getting to a point where like I was thinking about it when I got in the shower this morning. I was like in 2025, I still don't think Michigan will have beaten Ohio State. Like I just don't see I don't see how this rivalry changes anytime soon until Michigan makes a head coaching change or Ohio State does. And Ohio State already went through one during this streak, so if Harbaugh loses this one, man, he is so bad against Michigan State, against top tens, against Ohio State. I just don't have it. I don't see if what the argument is to keep Harbaugh there, unless you're like a decent Michigan fan and you know what to expect. And you know what to expect is 9 to 10 wins every year competing in the Big Ten. And if that's what Michigan wants, that's great. Harbaugh stays. If they want to compete for the Big Ten, they need someone other than Harbaugh. He is just a weird freaking dude. He's a weird guy. And I don't know. All right. So let's go over our picks. I'll leave Matt Jakubosky's off. He won his first bet yesterday. Ole Miss plus 1.5, so he's 1-0. He's got Ohio State minus 8.5, unlucky number for him. Oregon State plus 6.5. Louisville minus 2.5, and Oklahoma State minus 3.5. Lucky. How did you get it 3.5? I'm gonna have to check on Matt's numbers at some point, maybe next week. But all right, your picks, man.
Yeah, let me just get him pulled up here. And while I can do it, I'm going to go ahead and say that I hate his Louisville minus 2.5 pick. But regardless, we'll get into mine.
That makes no. Why is Louisville favored? You can go ahead. But I saw that when I was typing him in this morning, and I couldn't believe they were favored. Well, first of all, because I looked at Louisville. And I said all the picks had to come from rivalry games, and I was like, Louisville, who are they playing that they would be – like it can't be Kentucky because they wouldn't be favored versus Kentucky. I'll let you get into your picks, but I agree. That line is preposterous.
Yeah, but Vegas, I guess they know something we don't. The same thing happened with Oregon, Utah, and Matt J jumped all over that, and it worked out for him.
Fucker.
So my picks, I've got Nebraska minus 1. Hosting Iowa. I've got Arkansas minus 14.5. I'm the biggest Arkansas fanboy you've ever met. You know this. Because they're gonna be hosting Missouri. This is also my lock of the week. I have Florida State at Florida over 59.
Ooh, not willing to risk it to take the spread. Okay. Nope. I like that. That's a smart move.
I won't even touch a money line. That's where we're at right now. But
that's a smart move.
Michigan State plus 2 hosting Penn State. I don't remember picking that one, but I'll stand behind it. And then I've got
whatever you did. You got you got the number at 2, and it's I think either a half, a pick 'em, or 1 now. So it's a good pick in my opinion.
I'll sit on it. Yeah, and then I've got Ohio State at Michigan. I've got it under 65 actually.
Okay, that's not crazy. That's not crazy. No.
Well, and I was remembering last week on the podcast, you'd been talking about how they've hit the over. Ohio State has maybe like once or twice this whole season.
Yeah, they don't hit the they're not very consistent with that. Yeah. All right, my picks. What was your last one?
The under of Ohio State at Michigan.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay, cool. 65. Yeah, I don't think that's crazy. I honestly don't think – the only way I think you're crazy looking at this Ohio State-Michigan game is if you're taking Michigan. Because there's no point in taking Michigan unless you're taking them money line. I respect money line. You're just an idiot, but whatever. I respect it. But, yeah. All right. So my picks hold on one sec. All right, my picks. All right. Missed my first one. Egg Bowl over 64.5. Bummer. I'm 0-1. Not the way I wanted to start the weekend. Ohio State minus 7.5 is my lock. I got the Oklahoma State number at 4, so I'm taking that. I said it earlier, Cincy team total over 35.5. And then Minnesota versus Wisconsin under 39. Where are we next? Sorry, I keep getting messages from my other site I write for. So I'm off track. I didn't get Matt J's lock. I'll get it before tomorrow, and I'll obviously post a tweet with our picks and everything like that. And then we'll just do it like we always do it. Who's going to muff the weekend?
I had this answer before we started the podcast, and now it has slipped me. I'm going to go ahead. I don't think there's enough for Jim Harbaugh to lose. He's kind of like an easy, lazy pick. But I'm going to say Lincoln Riley.
Lincoln Riley, okay. All right. This one's easy. Jim Harbaugh again, and I'll go as far to say Cade McNamara and Jim Harbaugh. I just don't see Michigan's offense isn't explosive enough to stay with Ohio State to score. And even though they do have Agent Hutchinson, I don't know for the life of me, I can't think of the other defensive end's name. They do have it. They do have the people they can get to CJ Stroud. I just don't trust them to. I don't trust Aiden Hutchinson to do so. I've seen him be good. I've seen him be bad. And I just think that, I think Ohio State wins this one. And I think I'm usually not that confident going into Ohio State, Michigan. You're 100% right. I feel very, very good about that pick. I don't know why. I feel very, very good about them covering 7.5. So I think Jim Harbaugh is going to muff the weekend. And then I don't know what happens from there, but I think it's a storyline. It's a headline we're going to have to follow for the next couple, especially during bowl season and everything like that. All right. So like I said, I'll put out our picks and locks. I don't know when Matt's going to put this up, but whenever he does, hopefully by the end of the weekend. But anything else from you, my man?
That's all for me. I mean, go Gators. Let's get the lane trade headed to Gainesville.
Yeah. So you're full in on,
I am all in.
Okay. All right. Hey, you know what? I'll ride with you. I'm all in on Lane Kiffin to Florida as well. I think he's at Ole Miss now, and I think he's just I feel like he feels like he's stuck there. I don't know. Maybe if he goes to Florida and has ocean somewhere near him, he feels like he can get away if he have to, or I don't know. But I know he loves Miami. I know he loves Florida, so I would love to see Lane Kiffin go back there because I just don't think he's going to stay at Ole Miss. I think he wants to get out. But yeah, all right. So everyone, hopefully you had a great Thanksgiving. Like I said, we'll get this up when we get it up. Man to Man Podcast, Fantasy Sunday morning, like usual. All the games tomorrow. We'll be in contact, Matthew, I'm sure with Matt as well. Tweet us questions or whatever. But other than that, let's have a good weekend, and hopefully we have a hell of a day of college football tomorrow. Let's rock.